forever,
True.
like your grandma has.
No, so we had so we just bought, when we bought our house, like what, 2 years ago? 2.5 years ago? 3?
Something like that.
We bought a new microwave. It went off the other day. And we were like,
Not
not gonna happen. Came back on. Praise Jesus. But
Curse the demons out of that microwave.
put them in the pigs.
You're about to burn
No,
my
they
food
cooked in my
again.
microwave.
Hey, I have missed you all. I missed you. I miss coming up here and being silly and talking about Jesus. I hope you all are doing well. Hey, Braden, how would you introduce your friend?
Oh, this is my cousin Easton. What school do you
Oh, so
go to?
I thought you knew him, Braden.
he's not your
I'm
friend?
glad you got his name right. Go ahead, say your name, your grade, and what school you go to.
Easton,
Easton?
and I'm in 5th.
Right on. What school?
Twin Valley.
Right on, dude.
Hey, try
What is he doing in Twin Valley? Twin Valley South.
Okay. Are you looking at me?
No. I just went off this general direction. But,
I don't know.
hey, we're glad you're here. Easton, I hope you, if you can put up with Brady, you can put up with just about anybody. I'm just playing right on anybody. I love it. Good to see everybody. Hunter, I feel like camouflage next to the tree. I'm not going to turn my head during my sermon like, hey, Hunter! Hunter had a football game, and they won. It's pretty good. And I know Northmont started school. And someone else, let's see, Milton starts Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Football game on that same day.
CTC already
JJ,
in.
when do you start school?
I don't ever again.
I'm all about not doing school. What?
It's crazy.
You already started?
Yeah.
You'll start like last Tuesday.
I did. I did start last Tuesday.
Well, hey, we're continuing on with the Story Team curriculum. For those of you who don't know, we've been going through the Bible as a complete narrative, all the way from the beginning of the Bible all the way up until now. And so we are still in the Old Testament, but today we are going to talk about the faith of I think that was it. We're going to talk about the faith of a foreign woman, okay? And so the story today comes out of the book of Ruth. If any of you know about the book of Ruth, it has the story of Ruth and Naomi in it. It's a great story. We're going to learn about it today.
I didn't eat that.
Huh?
What is it?
Ruth. How about you go back? Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth. Let's go! The 8th book, which means he actually knows the book of the Bible. It only took me 8 amazing races to get it into some of y'all's heads. Okay. Okay. Alright, are you guys ready for the video?
Yes.
You guys ready for the video?
Yes.
Hey, for all of you real quick who are watching on YouTube, I will have better sound quality next week. I do apologize. This will be the last week where it's like this kind of like warbly stuff. But here we go. Ready, guys?
That was actually perfect.
There was a man named Elimelech and his wife Naomi who lived in Israel during the time when the judges were in charge. There was a great shortage of food in Israel that caused them to move to a foreign country called Moab. Elimelech and Naomi raised 2 sons, and when their sons grew up, they each married women from Moab. Sadly, Naomi's husband and 2 sons died, and Naomi was left alone with her 2 daughters-in-law. She told them that she was going to move back to Israel, and that they should return to their own families. But one of the women, Ruth, refused to leave Naomi. She said, "Wherever you go, I will go. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God." So Naomi and Ruth moved back to Israel to begin a new life. One day, Ruth went to a field to pick up the grain that the farmers had left behind. Little did she know that the owner of the field was Boaz, a relative of Naomi. Boaz was kind to her and offered her to come find food whenever she wanted. Naomi was getting older, so she came up with a plan to provide for Ruth once she was gone. She suggested that Ruth sneak into Boaz's bedroom while he was sleeping, uncover his feet, and ask him to take care of her. Ruth took Naomi's advice. She uncovered Boaz's feet and laid down next to him. In the middle of the night, Boaz woke up startled. Ruth asked him to care for and protect her. Boaz agreed, but said he needed to first buy the land she lived on so that he would have the right to marry her. So Boaz brought together the decision makers of his town and asked for permission to buy the land. The leaders gave Boaz permission and prayed that God would help Ruth be a great wife. They were married and had a son named Obed, who would soon become the grandfather of one of the greatest leaders Israel had ever known.
All right, a little bit of foreshadowing there, but this story is one that most people, they're like, there's a whole book for it, so you might have heard it before, but we're going to go into it a little bit differently than what most people are used to. Most people are just kind of like read the story and they're like, oh, that was nice, you know, Ruth did a thing, and she got a book named after her. How cool. But no, this is a story about loyalty. Everybody say loyalty. Loyalty. What is that word? Loyalty. Does anybody know?
You'll stick by someone's side no matter what.
Stick by someone's side no matter what. So the term loyalty, giving or showing firm and constant support or allegiance to a person or institution. Loyal. If I'm loyal to you, that means I'm going to stand by you. Thick and thin, no matter what, I'm loyal. Everybody say dogs are so loyal. They're man's best friend. And that's because there's been incidences where everybody's like, I was gone for weeks, my dog waited outside my front door for me for weeks. My dog practically starved himself and he waited for me. That dog's so loyal. And because that dog said, look, you are my number one priority. You give me food when no one else does. For that reason, I will sit. You know, like, it's one of those things. Something has to draw upon you in order for them to be loyal, right? You all are at an age right now where boyfriends and girlfriends is the hot ticket. And especially with you going back to school, they just want to find that, I want to find that girl that's loyal. And the girls are like,
I need a man who's loyal.
whatever. Point being, someone who is actually going to stand beside you is important. When you're in marriage, let me tell you, ain't no way you get out of it. I am loyal to my wife. I am beside her, no matter what. She can make me so mad. But in the end of the day, she's my wife. And let me tell you, I make her mad every day. She's still here. Bless the Lord. All right, so loyalty is something that says, I'm going to stand beside you. Everybody get that concept? I hope so by that point. All right. It was very difficult for women, especially in those times, because they did not have much say. They relied wholly and completely on the husband. Okay? Ladies, things have changed in the last hundreds of years. Okay? And the reason being is because you guys have way more rights. You have lots more say. You always had the same amount of big mouth. But, you know, that's a good thing at times, you know? Women gotta say what they gotta say, you know? Fellas, our ears are getting bigger. It's all right. We're doing all right. But ultimately, in those days, a woman could not go and purchase land. She could not make the same decisions in the council or in the synagogues that a man could. She was the helper to the man. That means Ruth, Naomi, and the other sister-in-law, and her name was Ophora, I believe. Ophora. Look it up. It's in Ruth. No. But they knew that they were in trouble because all of their husbands had died. And so they were pretty much, in a terminology, they were up a creek without a paddle. It was very difficult for them to be able to provide for themselves simply because they did not have the same authority as other people in those times. Tell me a time where you showed undying loyalty. Did you show it? Tell me a time you showed undying loyalty to someone or something. Go, anybody. Undying loyalty. Give me an example. You guys don't have any examples of you guys are so unloyal, unfaithful, ungrateful. Somebody, anybody. Were you loyal to anything in your lives? School. Give me an example. You open the can of worms. I want you to eat it. Let's go. Oh, come to the amazing grace.
You go to school every day.
Do you?
Yeah.
What happens if you don't?
You get the cops called on you and they make you.
Why do you know that process? Why do you know that process?
Hopefully, have you ever had that? We're not talking about that. You said parents. Undying loyalty to parents. Give me an example.
What does undying mean?
Yeah, that's what
You don't have a
It's
fair.
the opposite of dying.
No, basically, it's what if I said when you showed unwavering loyalty? Does that make sense? What does it mean to waver?
School ain't gonna start fast enough.
Not stable.
I'll give an example.
Go ahead, my baby.
So Pastor Will and I are always on a team.
That's right.
That's what we say, Mommy and Daddy on a team.
That's right.
And so if Mommy and Daddy are together, Jana does something, and Will steps in and is like, now you're not gonna get shows for a whole week,
Just like
and then walks away. And I'm like, yeah, Jana, no shows for a whole week. That's what Daddy says. And then I walk away, and then I'm like, with Jana not seeing us, okay, well, I think that's maybe a little harsh. Maybe we need to go
Nope.
back in and discuss this. So we are on a team when everybody else sees. But then if we need to discuss something, we walk away and we talk about it. But I'm always loyal to him, and we are on a team together.
it's true.
That way we come in as one front. And I'm sure your parents can be like that at times too, where there's a good cop and a bad cop, but when you get good and bad cop together, they're always somehow on the same team.
Always.
So here's the thing. Look, we're going to discuss the theme of loyalty and the idea of that today. Okay, we're going to kick around the ideas of what does it mean to be loyal. What did the story show us about loyalty, and how can we take that and apply it to our lives? Okay, everybody get that concept today. We're gonna try to figure out how you can not only become more loyal to God, but also loyal to the things and to the people who deserve our loyalty. Okay, so story of Naomi and Ruth. Naomi married a man named Elimelech and had 2 sons. Right, those 2 sons married Ruth and Apporah. I was right. From Moab, and both of Naomi's sons and her husband died. Boom. Bummer. Now Naomi, she's like, I ain't got no shot. No shot. I ain't never getting another man. That time is long come and gone. But my daughters have a chance. Okay, my daughters-in-law, they could still go find a man and he could provide for her. So she said, go back to Moab. Go back to your hometown. Find a nice man, he'll take care of you. You're both still young, you're both still beautiful, you can find someone. That is showing loyalty. Because, think of her. If Naomi gives away her 2 daughters-in-laws back to another country, now she's going back to Israel as a widow in her older age. She's pretty much signing a death warrant for herself. She wouldn't be able to survive. An example. Everybody look back at Pam. Everybody look back at Pam. We love Pam. Pam's a party animal, okay? But now, think of Pam having to leave here and go to a foreign state with nobody, no job, no house, no nothing. And Pam, you've got to not only survive, but you've got to somehow provide.
I would just give it up.
Just give it up. She's like, it's over.
Unless she could be like Naomi, but and Ruth, but at this day and age, I would just have to give it up and die. Nobody's gonna.
It's
Yeah.
right, because
I mean,
you're
that's-
thinking nobody's going to help me.
No,
Right.
no.
And as
if you
much...
think about it, Will, nobody may help. Even say like Neil. I mean, in this country, old people have it hard sometimes.
It's true. And in the same parallel from now till back then, people are still selfish. Look, the fact that I can't talk today does not mean you guys have to make out everything.
They're so selfish. Okay?
Look, it's true though. Naomi knew that she wasn't going to be able to take care of those girls. And if they followed her, she's like, they're signing their death warrant as well. I'm going back to Israel to die. But I'm loyal to them and I want them to have a better life. So I told them, go find a husband, take care of yourselves. People nowadays don't even help guys. They certainly don't help girls. There's no chivalry. There's no pity. Chivalry, look it up. There is none of that anymore. People don't care about others. They're all in it for themselves. That's why we have to break that mold, guys. We have to show what loyalty looks like. I'm loyal to God. And God said to love my neighbors, love my enemies, which means I need to care for those even though I don't know them, even though I may know nothing about you. I need to care about them. To show love and respect and honor to you. Okay? She encouraged them to go back, but Ruth said something very profound that reshaped her life and Naomi's forever. She said in verse 16 and 17 of Ruth chapter 1, or chapter 3, I'll have to double check. It says, do not plead with me to leave you or to turn back from following you. For where you go, I will go. Where you sleep, I will sleep. Your people shall be my people, and your God shall be my God. This is huge. This is the main focal scripture about loyalty. Okay? Think about this. She says, if you're going to die, I'll die with you. That's what she's saying. Where you go, I'll go. Where you sleep, I'll sleep. That means she's saying, you get a shack on the road, I'm going to be beside you on the road. You don't have food, I don't have food. Your people are now my people, and the God you serve, this is big, the God you serve is now the God I serve. Because she knew that there had to have been something profound for Naomi to want to leave and go back to Israel. There had to be something about that. Okay? I'm sure they talk about their faith often. So the God of Israel, the God we serve, she's like, okay, your God's my God now, and I'm going to follow you. And so they went out, and you read the story in Ruth, life ain't all peaches and cream and rainbows and good stuff, all right? It was difficult. And they actually had to go and look for food, scrounge for food. They're homeless, okay? And Ruth goes behind the servants in this guy's field to pick up the scraps that are left over. Okay? When you read the story, Boaz, who's the man here in the story, the kinsman redeemer, we'll talk about that in a second, he had a grand field, right? Lots of crops, lots of food, he was very well off, and he had lots of servants. And the servant's job was to go to the field and to pick grain or vegetables or whatever off of this as they walk through the field. Anybody ever pick tomatoes? Yeah? You see nice big red tomatoes, and if they get there a little too long, they start getting eaten out of by bugs, and you're like, never mind. And you just kind of like put that one aside. Those are the ones that Ruth was picking up to eat with Naomi. You have to understand, if you're starving, you'll eat food. They had nothing. So Boaz was like, hey, who's that chick back there behind all my servants picking up the scraps? And they're like, oh, that's Ruth. It's Naomi's daughter-in-law. her husband, has passed. Gets a little background, gets a little story, and he's like, and he does something that is contrary to the culture. He's like, hey, tell the servants to leave some of the good food still on the stalk, or still on the vine, for her to pick up. Basically, he's saying, have them miss some of the vegetables purposely so that Ruth can pick it up for her. He was showing kindness. And this was before he even knew that he was considered the kinsman redeemer. Let me talk about that. A kinsman redeemer is one who was related in some way to the family, but not related to her. So, as you know, Naomi, so don't get it like it's weird, okay? So Naomi and Elimelech, right? They married and had 2 sons. So Elimelech could have had a brother or a cousin. And that could have been the relation to Boaz. So Boaz knew Naomi. All right? That's how this connection worked there, right? But Naomi and Elimelech had 2 sons, and they married 2 daughters, okay? So the daughters didn't have connections to this guy. So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, he married her brother. Chill, okay? So the thing is, he knew it was his responsibility to provide for them, okay? It was his responsibility because that was his family, right? That had family, okay? And so just like I am an uncle to some, or I am a cousin twice removed to some, if I was to say, hey, there is someone in our family line who is in need or in trouble or whatever, obviously these kinds of differences, I wouldn't be like, all right, I'm going to go marry him. No, that's not what you do. But you would say, hey, I'm going to go help them provide. I'm going to help, maybe help with their rent or help with food or whatever. It's showing kindness and showing love and care and concern for those who need it. Obviously, we are here to redeem. The term redeemer is to bring out of. Christ is our redeemer, and so he brought us out of sin and death. And so a kinsman, someone who is kin, and then a redeemer. So a person who is in the family line, who is redeemed. Does it make sense? If it doesn't make sense, please somebody tell me. Does it make sense? See, I'm not getting either, so I don't know. They're all like, I'm not going to tell them it makes sense if it doesn't, but I'm not going to tell them it doesn't make sense, because then I'm going to keep explaining it. No. Alright, moving on. Chapter 3, he applauded her for not chasing after young men. This is Boaz talking about Ruth. He's like, hey, you didn't run after all the young guys here in Israel and leave Naomi. No, you decided to take care of her. Because here's another thing. This is, again, loyalty. Naomi and Ruth came back to Israel, and Ruth is still in her prime. She could go and find herself a nice man. But if she did, what would happen to Naomi? She would die. Be like, hey, thanks, Ma. See ya. Boom. Bam. We out. And that's it. Dip it. No. And so Ruth said, where you go, I will go. So I'm going to take care of you, is what she was saying. I'm not leaving you. I'm loyal to you. And so Naomi was like, hey, Boaz is our kinsman redeemer, which means Boaz will take care of us. Not just you or not just me, but us. And she's like, well, great. Let's pray that I find favor with him. And so Naomi said that the man would not rest until the matter is settled today, and that's when Boaz says, I will provide. But there was a little, I guess, method that Naomi used. Any of my young ladies here? But this is what she said. She says, hey, I got an idea. He's been leaving some extra food for you to pick up, right? This is a good stuff, right? So this is what I want you to do. I want you to sneak into his bedroom late at night, after he's had some wine, or he's, relaxed, he goes to bed, sneak in there, cover his feet, and then lay down beside him. Don't do that, okay? I'm going to explain her logic behind all this, but I promise you, if any of you go into a young man's bedroom, lift his covers off his feet and lay down at the foot of his bed for him to wake up and be like, take care of me. No, that will end very badly, as in jail.
As in, he'll die from
Hey.
All right, so the feet, again, everything has symbolism, okay? And so, everybody know what symbolism is before I start going to that?
Are we learning the Bible or is this an English class?
If I have to, I will. But the point is, it is referring to something that refers to another something. It's a symbol. Okay? So, we talk about the lowest of the low for the servant to do in a household. So, everyone usually walked with sandals or barefoot in those times. So their feet got nasty, okay? I mean, nasty. And so whenever someone would walk in the house, the lowest servant would go and they would wash the feet of everyone who came in. It was a sign of ultimate submission, okay? Ultimate respect and honor. That's why when Jesus washed his disciples' feet, we're all just like, wow, Jesus took the position of the lowest servant because he said, I want you to do this also. Okay, this is the imagery that he was setting for us. He's like, I want you to serve people like I served you. Be the lowest. Okay? Know who you are, but be willing to do what you need to do for others. Does that make sense? So Naomi was like, go and show ultimate submission. Say, hey, I need you to care for me. And so that's why she was at the foot of the bed. That's why she didn't go up and nestle up in beside him and be like, oh, let's take care of me. No. She was like, I am humbly just asking you to care for my family. Okay? That's why she did what she did. What happened was Boaz said, okay, I'll take care of you. I promise you. And that's why Naomi said he will settle the matter. I mean, quickly. If he is a man of his word, it will be done both days. The next day, he goes to the temple courts and he asks them, hey, this is the situation. Naomi and Elimelech, they have some land over here. I want to purchase that land. I'm a kinsman redeemer. I'm in line. But there were other people who also were in line to buy this land, who were relatives of Elimelech. And this other guy's like, no, I want that land. And Boaz is like, okay, you are in line before me. The right is yours first. But I would like to say that when you buy this land, you also get Naomi and Ruth to take care of, the Moabites. And the guy is instantly like, no, you can buy the land, it's fine. And so understand, he was not willing to take the responsibility that came with the wealth of owning more land. He wanted all of this extra, but he did not want the responsibility of Ruth and Naomi. But since Boaz said, no, I'm here to take care of Ruth and Naomi, the land is extra, it was no problem to him. And so he's like, okay, I'll purchase it. He marries Ruth, takes care of Naomi, and they go on to have a son. And this son, Obed, is interesting. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Boaz settles the matter of the day, took Ruth his wife, provided for her, he said he would. Make sure if you make a promise to someone, you hold to your word and don't dilly-dally about it. If you've never heard that statement, basically it means be lazy and slow about it. Okay? But he said what he said, he followed through with his word. Okay? And they went on to be blessed by God with their offspring. Okay? In those times, again, having males was a sign of respect and honor because they carried on the lineage of that family. And so a wife that had sons, she was to be praised. Not to say the females were not, but again, that's the time they lived in. Okay? I love my girls. They are awesome. But they had a son. The son's name was Obed. Everybody say Obed. Obed. Okay. Now, Obed, at that time, nobody understood how amazing this was. Okay? Even you sitting here, you're like, I have no idea who Obed is, nor do I know why it's so amazing. I'm going to tell you. Obed was the grandfather of King David. The same David that killed Goliath. The same David that ruled over Israel. And is considered to be one of, if not the greatest kings to ever reign in Israel. Someone who loved the Lord and stayed with him and honored him. That would have never happened if Ruth did not stay loyal to Naomi. Listen, this is where I really want you guys to focus. Can you focus for the next 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Focus in. Everybody in? This is going to be super important, okay? You do not know what your loyalty will bring about in the future, okay? You don't know. I have no idea what my daughters are going to do in the future, or who they're going to marry, or the children they're going to have. I have no idea. I just know my role is to be loyal to that woman right there, and to be a good father and a good husband, a good youth pastor. That's my job, okay? Ruth had no idea that her son would be the grandfather of the greatest king Israel ever had, who would slay a giant 9 feet tall. But she knew that she needed to be loyal to Naomi, to care for her. So she was willing to go to whatever length it was to care for her. What people don't talk about is whatever happened to the sister of Ruth, the sister. You know, she went back to Moab. And the Moabites, which were the people of Moab, they became ruled by a group known as the Philistines. And Ahora also had a son. And he was the grandfather of Goliath, whom David defeated years later.
So technically, Goliath was his. They were related, but were they
Had
like?
a long string. Yeah.
Was his cousin?
So listen. If Ahora was as loyal to Naomi as Ruth was, David would have never fought Goliath. He would have never needed to.
That means they would be.
They would have been on the same team. Loyalty goes a long way, guys. Now, God used this instance here of Ruth's loyalty to Naomi to bring about David to conquer Goliath. Because Ahora did not stay loyal. She went back to Moab. Okay? There is something powerful when you talk about loyalty. Okay? If you want to be true to someone, then you need to understand that it has a ripple effect far beyond what you can see. And in the same regards, if you're not, it also has a ripple effect far beyond what you can see. You understand? So, all around this story is the theme of loyalty. Naomi and Ruth and their loyalty to one another, promising to provide for one another. It continues when Boaz entered the scene because he showed favor to Ruth as well as providing as her kinsman neighbor. Where is your loyalty? Are you loyal to someone? And how loyal are you to God and His plan for your life? You're sitting here and you're like, man, I'm 12 years old, I'm 13, I'm 14. Maybe some of you are like, I'm a senior, about to go to college. I'm about to start my life. How loyal are you to saying, God, I will follow you wherever you want me to go. I will do what you want me to do rather than what I want to do. I won't always take the easy way out. I'm going to go ahead and do what you want for me. I'm going to remain loyal to you. Can we say that? Can we honestly say, hey, from as young as I am to as old as I am, I'm going to remain loyal to God. I'm going to remain steadfast in Him. I'm 31 years old. There was times in my life that I wish I had remained more loyal to God. Times that I can't get back. Moments that I can't replace, you know. Pam, how old are you now?
74.
74. Longevity of life, y'all. Pam is loyal to God. I can honest to goodness say that with no problem up here. Pam, when she is loyal to someone, she is diehard loyal to them. she loves all of you very, very much, okay? Wants to get to know you all more. But the thing is, some of you aren't even loyal to your parents or your siblings. Some of you aren't loyal to friends at school. You'll jump at the flip of a hat. Some of you wish other people would be as loyal to you as you are to them. I cannot control what other people do. I can't control what you do. But what I can do is I can tell you that the more loyal you are, the more that people see that. And the more loyal you are to God, the more that He will honor and respect that and bless you through that. Josh talked about loyalty with our finances this morning. He said, hey, if you honor God with your tithes and your offerings, I will honor you. I will bless you. It's a promise from Scripture. Up here, we have 2 buckets. And we're going to start implementing this every Sunday because I do a pretty bad job at it, and I need to do a better job. But this is tithes and offerings. Tithes is our 10%. It is the money that God has given us. We take 10% off the top and we give it back to Him in honor and respect. The other is offering. Offering is when we say, I'm going to go above and beyond. I'm going to give for either missions, or I'm going to give to further His kingdom because He's blessed me with extra, or whatever. You know, sometimes sowing seeds is giving of offerings. Pastor talks about it a lot about how if he's going through hard things in his life, he'll sow a seed. He'll give a gift to someone or to the church or something like that and ask the Lord to bless him through that. And the Lord always does. Okay? What I'm challenging you guys is if you have a job, if you have any kind of supplementary income, I don't care if you get allowances and offerings, stuff like that from parents on a monthly basis. I don't care if it's 10 cents off of $1. I challenge you to start making a practice of giving your tithe and see what God does. Stace.
Yes, for those of you that don't know percentages in 10%, if you have $100, that's $10. That's your tithe. If you have $10, that means $1 is your tithe. You can always do the math on your phone. But 10% is that, and then say, so you put in, you make $100, you put in $10 per tithe, anything over that is offering.
And again, Stacy and I have made a practice ever since we didn't have money. Let me tell you, there was times we did not have money. God's gonna get His, okay? And JJ, I know you've got testimony and stories about how when you really started saying, "Hey, God's gonna get my tithe," how He just opened up amazing blessing in your life. But you know, it's that loyalty, right? And so it's good stuff. It really is. And so again, be loyal to God, be faithful to Him in our finances, be faithful to Him in your time. Give God your time, you know, in reading of scriptures or in prayer or in worship or anything like that. When you do that, God will honor you. I promise. Okay? All right. We're going to close in prayer before we dismiss. Is there anyone here who is willing to close us in prayer? Does anybody want to pray out loud for the group? Just to close us? Anybody at all?
Thanks, Jackson, for raising your hand.
Jackson, I appreciate you, man. Go ahead and pray for us nice and loud.
God, I thank you for this sermon that Pastor was giving us today. And thank you for everybody that woke up today, this Sunday, and help us stay on the right track.